Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're zeroing in on something that, well, many of you seem curious about, especially if you're thinking about exploring new ways for self-discovery. It's the Spiritual Personality Tests app. We've gathered quite a bit of feedback, real experiences from people who have actually used it, taken the tests.
Right.
Our goal here is pretty straightforward. Just give you a clear picture, of what real users are saying. Help you decide if this app might be something you want to check out for your own journey.
Exactly. Think of it like an insider's look. We're not telling you what to think, but just kind of distilling what other users who are also curious have experienced.
Makes sense.
And the app itself, it really does have an impressive range of tests. It covers things like spiritual awareness, starseed origins.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Deeper stuff like soul karma, spiritual path. Plus, it brings in known frameworks like the Enneagram and spiritual intelligence.
So a mix of familiar and maybe more niche topics.
Totally. You've also got more specialized ones. Past life, Gnostic perspectives, inner liberation, spiritual gifts, even next life possibilities.
Wow, okay.
And then assessments like logical and emotional intelligence, mental age, youth wisdom. Oh, and something called the impossible quiz, which sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
And importantly, a lot of these have demo versions, so you can kind of dip your toe in before committing.
Good to know. Okay, so diving right in then. If you're wondering about the overall feeling, the first thing that really jumps out from these reviews is, well, it's overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, definitely.
We're seeing lots of 4- and 5-star ratings. It strongly suggests, that a good chunk of people are finding real value here.
Absolutely. It's not just like a few happy campers. It seems pretty consistent. And when you look closer at why they're rating it so high, some interesting themes pop up.
Like what?
Well, one of the strongest is this feeling of accuracy, like how personally the results hit home for them.
Right. I saw that with Rachel K. She's a life coach, and she tried the spiritual awareness test. Yeah. She specifically pulled out the phrase, hawk-like perspective. Said it really struck her. And the 33 questions, they apparently prompted some serious thinking about her own consciousness.
Huh.
She used the words genuinely felt understood. That's a pretty powerful reaction to an app, isn't it?
It really is. It makes you think, how does a description like hawk-like perspective land so well? Maybe it taps into something archetypal or just offers a fresh way to see yourself.
Could be. And it wasn't just a vague feeling either. There's Marcus T., a musician. He took the Starseed Test.
Okay.
And for him, it confirmed this feeling he had of being Pleiadian. The idea your soul might be from another star system.
Right, I'm familiar.
He said it was accurate about his challenges, like feeling like he didn't quite fit Earth's energy. That's very specific, very personal.
Yeah.
He did dock at a star, wanted longer results, but that core validation, it was definitely there for him.
That's a great example, actually, how these tests can give you a language, maybe a framework for these really deep, sometimes hard to explain inner feelings.
Exactly.
So even if you wanted more, that initial aha moment, that recognition seems really important.
Totally. Then you've got Priya M. She's a social worker. Her experience with the soul karma test sounds like it was genuinely impactful.
How so?
She said she gained this real understanding of repeating patterns in her relationships. And it wasn't just interesting information. It actually pushed her to start therapy.
Wow. Okay. That's significant.
Yeah, like a tangible real-world result from using the app.
Precisely. It moved beyond just, oh, that's interesting, and became a catalyst for, actual self-improvement work. That says a lot about the potential depth here for someone really looking to understand themselves.
So moving on from just the positive vibes, a lot of users talked about the depth, the insight they got. They're suggesting that these aren't just, those quick surface-level quizzes you find everywhere online.
Right, not the which type of bread are you kind of thing.
Exactly. Take Derek B., a veteran. He called the spiritual path test intense.
Intense, okay.
Yeah, and he was genuinely surprised. It pegged him as a warrior archetype so accurately. He even contrasted it directly with what he called fluffy BuzzFeed quizzes.
That's telling.
He did say some questions felt a bit repetitive, but overall the depth really impressed him.
That warrior archetype mention is interesting. It suggests the test might be using established archetypal ideas, which can feel more substantial, right? Not just random labels. And the intensity he felt, that points to a deeper level of engagement than just clicking buttons.
Yeah. We also heard from Sophia, a professor. Her past life test linked her to Hypatia of Alexandria.
Oh, wow.
And what's really cool is that the historical details apparently resonated with her own interests. It got her so curious that her whole book club ended up taking the test.
Out. That's quite a ripple effect.
Isn't it?
It really shows how these things can spark not just personal insight, but like intellectual curiosity and even social connection. And that it resonated with a professor is quite something.
Then there's Tyler L., a grad student. He liked the Enneagram test, specifically mentioning the wing analysis and motivational architecture.
Okay, so he knew his stuff.
Seems like it. The Enneagram, for anyone listening, is that model with 9 personality types. Tyler, appreciating the nuances, shows even people familiar with these systems found value.
That's good to hear.
His only critique was wanting more on integration and disintegration paths within the Enneagram, which suggests he wanted even more depth.
Yeah, that's valuable feedback. It shows the app isn't just for beginners, but it's also hitting the mark for people who already know these systems. Wanting more advanced stuff points to a decent level of sophistication in the test itself.
And Anita S., a yoga teacher, she had what she called a spiritual IQ breakthrough with the spiritual intelligence test.
A breakthrough.
Yeah, she found strengths in transcendence and holistic thinking, but also an area for growth and resilience. And get this. She printed out her 10-dimension results and put them in her meditation space.
Oh, wow. That's really integrating it.
Right. It really shows how personally significant she found those insights.
That visual of her using the results in her practice, that's powerful. Suggests she's actively using it as a guide for her own development.
We also got some interesting stories about specific tests. Elijah M., he practices Buddhism. He said the quiz of inner liberation, just mind blown.
Mind blown, okay.
Yeah. He said its explanation of moksha, liberation or release in Eastern thought was clearer than anything he'd read before. He immediately bought the test bundle after that.
Wow. That kind of strong reaction really speaks to the potential clarity of that particular test, especially for someone already familiar with the concepts.
Definitely. Then, Pastor Dave H. took the spiritual gifts test. It identified his gift as prophecy.
Okay.
And he really appreciated the explanation of how that might show up today in a modern context. It wasn't just a label. He gave it practical relevance.
That context is so key, isn't it? Connecting these maybe ancient-seeming ideas to modern life makes them way more useful for people day to day.
Lena K., she's a Reiki master. She felt the next life test accurately mirrored some current karmic challenges she was facing. But more than that, she said it gave actionable insights for now, for the present moment, which she found really insightful.
That combination, understanding potential past or future stuff, but getting solid guidance for right now, that's a powerful mix for growth, for handling current challenges.
And Maria G., a homeschooling mom, she shared that her 14-year-old genuinely enjoyed the youth wisdom test.
Interesting.
Apparently, it used Greek mythology in an engaging way, making it fun and educational, something they could even share.
That makes sense. Using familiar things like mythology, maybe making it a bit game-like, that can make these abstract ideas much more accessible, especially for younger people.
And Olivia C. owns a vintage shop. She got a surprise from the mental age test, said her result was much older.
An old soul.
Exactly. She found the AI commentary funny, but also insightful, and she shared it with friends that she considers old souls.
See, adding that AI commentary gives it personality, makes it more interactive than just getting a score. And the fact she shared it suggests it felt relatable, maybe validating.
Of course, we need the full picture. It wasn't all perfect. There was definitely some valuable feedback on where the app could improve.
Right. Important to cover that too.
Jordan P., an IT specialist, like the Gnostic personality test content, found his struggling psychic result interesting.
Okay.
But he had issues with the app crashing. That's a big one.
Oof, yeah. Text stability is crucial.
On the plus side, he noted his results were consistent when he retook it after the crash. So that's something.
That is reassuring about the test logic itself, yeah. But crashes are definitely frustrating and something the developers need to fix for a smoother experience.
Then Aisha B., a UX designer, she liked the Great Personality Test 16 trait model, found comprehensive. But she felt 65 questions was a bit much, a bit lengthy, and she also found navigating the app itself a little awkward.
The classic trade-off. Depth versus user-friendliness. More questions can give more data, sure, but you risk people getting tired or annoyed if the interface isn't smooth.
Makes sense. And Kai T., a cultural educator, praised the content overall, called it excellent.
Okay.
But they wished for more diverse cultural perspectives, beyond just Western or Eastern frameworks. especially in how some spiritual ideas were framed.
That's a really significant point, especially now. Being inclusive, sensitive to different cultural views when talking about spirituality, that's huge for reaching more people.
Yeah.
They did say the core insights still resonated, which is good, but the framing matters,
Yeah.
How people connect with it.
Absolutely. What's also interesting are some of the, unexpected ways people are using the app or benefits they didn't expect.
Oh, like what?
Robert D., an engineer, called himself skeptical. But he tried the logical intelligence test and was surprised by how thoughtful the questions were.
Okay.
And his estimated IQ score actually lined up with professional tests he'd taken before.
Okay.
Yeah. And it made him curious enough to want to try the emotional intelligence test next.
See, that shows the app might appeal even to folks hesitant about the more out there spiritual stuff. The logic test was a good entry point, built some trust.
Then Jamal, a therapist, he found the EQ test highlighted a specific weakness for him.
Mm-hmm.
And crucially, it offered practical tips to improve. Tips that actually led to positive changes in his relationships. That's real-world impact.
That actionable advice is key, isn't it? It goes beyond just, here's what you are, to here's how you can grow.
Thomas L. described himself as a corporate dropout. He used the spiritual awakening test almost like a map, he said, to understand his feelings of disillusionment.
Ah, okay.
Finding comfort and recognizing the stages of awakening the test described.
Yeah, for people going through big life changes or asking those big questions, having a framework like that can be so validating. Makes you feel less alone in it.
Professor Richard M., the philosopher, he tackled the impossible quiz, found it tough. But his reward was free access to the spiritual awareness test. He noted that these tests demand full presence, which fit with his own contemplative practice.
Interesting. So maybe even the lighter stuff is designed to encourage deeper engagement if you really commit to it.
Susan W., a journal therapist, she used the bundle deal, took 7 tests.
Wow.
And she used the emailed results as journaling prompts, part of her regular self-care routine. That's pretty creative.
That really shows how people are finding their own unique ways to weave these tools into their existing self-discovery practices. Very cool.
Michael T., he was changing careers. He used the tests, especially the spiritual intelligence one, to validate his need for more meaningful work. It helped support his decision to become a meditation teacher. That's a huge life shift, partly influenced by the app's insights.
That really drives home the potential for these tests to clarify or confirm those deeper callings, that sense of purpose.
And Dr. Emily R., a clinical psychologist, she actually recommends the app. Yeah, specifically the emotional intelligence test to some clients. She noted its balance of spiritual depth and psychological rigor. That's a serious endorsement.
Wow, yeah. Having a mental health professional give it a thumbs up speaks volumes about its potential credibility and value for self-awareness.
David K., a business consultant, he was surprised by the practical takeaways from the Karma test, specifically a growth readiness score.
Growth readiness.
Yeah, apparently it helped him time a difficult conversation at work. Again, that unexpected real-world application.
It really challenges that idea that spiritual stuff is just theoretical, right? Shows it can inform practical decisions.
Luna B., a digital nomad. She liked the mix of Gnostic archetypes and AI analysis in one test. Felt it really captured her as a pneumatic mystic, someone embracing both spirit and modern life.
That points to the app resonating with people who bridge different worlds, validating that kind of multifaceted identity.
And lastly, Star L., an intuitive reader. She said taking the Starseeds and spiritual path tests gave her a vocabulary, a validation for this lifelong feeling of being spiritually homeless.
Oh, wow.
She called it a life-changing experience.
For people who felt they don't quite fit or couldn't understand their inner world, it sounds like the app can offer this sense of belonging, of self-acceptance. That's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning the app seems to actively encourage this feedback loop. They invite users to email their experiences, star rating, story, name, job, if they want.
Mm-hmm.
Really suggest they're building a community and want that ongoing input.
Absolutely. That direct request for feedback shows the developers are likely listening, willing to learn and evolve based on what users are actually experiencing.
So to kind of wrap this up, for those of you listening, maybe considering the spiritual personality tests app, what we're seeing from these real customer stories is that it offers this really diverse range of tests. And they seem to be resonating deeply with a lot of people.
Yeah, providing insights into all sorts of personal and spiritual areas.
And while, the overall feeling is definitely positive, it's good to remember those areas for improvement users mentioned.
For sure. Things like app stability sometimes being an issue, maybe some awkward navigation, and that ongoing need for more inclusive cultural perspectives in how things are framed.
Right. But ultimately, the big takeaway seems to be that people aren't just treating these tests as, like, a quick bit of fun.
No, definitely not just entertainment.
For many, they're offering real chances for self-reflection, for deeper understanding, and sometimes, even sparking actual meaningful changes in their lives.
Which really poses an interesting question for you, the listener. Thinking about all these varied, sometimes really profound experiences people shared. What unique parts of your own journey, your own self-discovery might get illuminated if you decided to explore these kinds of tests? Definitely something to mull over.